Hello everyone. So a few more examples on hyperbola. So in the last lesson we have learned about how to graph hyperbolas. Now we're going to be learning about how to write down the equation for hyperbola. So let's get started. Here's my first example. So what we know is, we know foci of this hyperbola. So these points are foci, and let me just label it foci, and then conjugate axis, which is the other axis. Try recalling, transversal is the axis where you see hyperbolas on, and conjugate axis is the other one. Doesn't have to be the smaller one. This time it's not an ellipse, so transversal could be smaller than conjugate axis. It's possible, so that's totally normal. So conjugate axis is, we know, 4 units long. So that's all we know. So we need to write the equation. First of all, we do not know which axis our hyperbolas on. So for that, in order to get an understanding about that, I'm just going to plot foci points. Why? Because I know foci always going to be on the major or the transversal axis. So let's plot these points. So 0, 3 here, 0, and -3. So by plotting these points, I know hyperbola is going to be on the y-axis, and I hope you remember. So the variable that has hyperbolas on, that would come first in the equation. So you know it would be y, it would be x, there would be numbers under, it would be minus here, it's minus and it's equal to 1, and there would be a and b under each one. Okay, what about h and k? So since the center point for this is 0, 0, so h and k would be just 0 and 0. So I'm just going to say y squared and x squared. Now we need to decide a and b value. So think about this. Since you already know the transversal axis is the y-axis, right? So this number would be the a value. So the conjugate axis, which is x-axis, which we already know is 4 units long. So how about 4 unit is the total distance. So what would be the radius? So divide by 2. It's 2 and square would be 4. So that's what I know for sure. Okay, I still have to find this value. So since we know foci, which is c, so we gotta use c equation. So let's use c square equation. Remember, if original has minus in the equation, so c equation would have plus in there. So c, what is the number? 3, so square 9. A, it's missing. B is 4. So let's solve for a squared. So subtract 4 both sides, so it would be 5. So a squared is 5. So that's the number we need to replace in the equation here. So it would be 5, and that's my answer here. So it's pretty simple. Again, idea is, if you're getting confused, it's always better to plot those points and try visualizing it. Okay, next example. Okay, so for next example, vertices. The vertices of this hyperbola is at -1 and -2, -1 and -8. And for the conjugate axis, which is the other axis, it's 8 units long. We need to write the equation for this. So first thing, I would plot just to get an idea about the major or transversal axis. So -1 and -2. So -1 and -2 down here. -1 and +8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So this is the transversal axis. So again, since it's on the y-axis, so y would come first, and then there's a minus, then there's x, and there would be 1. Okay, now we need to find h and k. Is it 0, 0 this time? No, 0, 0 can't be half of this. So first you have to find h and k. So h and k, you know, there are multiple ways to do it. So just the easier way is, since you already know the vertices point here, so just find the center point. So you could even use midpoint formula. You could do that. So you can just add the x's and divide by 2. Same for y's, add the y's and divide by 2. So I'm going to show you midpoint formula. So let's just add the x's. So -1 added to -1 divided by 2, that would become -2 divided by 2, it's -1. You know, the x coordinate would stay the same. It's the y that would change. So -2 added to 8 divided by 2. So 6 divided by 2, which is 3. So your h and k, let me just put up here. So h and k is, for x, it's -1. For y, it's 3. That's what I have. So don't forget, this is, okay, watch out for this step. H is something that goes with x. K goes with y. So this is the h number. And x is in here, right? So that would go with x. This 3 is the k number that goes with y variable. So it would be this. So far, this is my equation with h and k so far. Why this minus sign looks so big? Let me just make it a little bit smaller. Okay, this is minus. Now we need to find a and b value. Okay, so you know a is the first number, b is the second one. So since we know conjugate x's is 8 units long, which is the x unit, x-axis. So 8, half of that is 4 squared would be, so this would be 16 under x. Okay. Now, how far you go on the y-axis? So you can, there are multiple ways. So we know the center point is at -1 and +3 here. So that's the center, right? How far you go on both sides? You can literally count these boxes, or you can actually go from, think about this. You go from 8 to -2. So how far you go? How many units you actually travel? 8 to -2. We go 10 units. So 10 is the total distance. Half is 5. So that's going to be the radius. And then 5 squared would be 25. Or you can just literally count these boxes. So you know that's going to be 5 here. So then we take square. So that would be my equation at the end. So yeah, that's pretty much all you have to do. So thank you for watching. Bye-bye.